right, welcome everybody to Booze Hour Cloud Edition today. I am joined by a very special guest, Hitesh Patel, who's a senior director with product management at F5, and he's done some really cool things at F5 that we can talk about, and some of the more recent stuff he's been working on as well. So I'm really excited to have him on. But before I do, first of all, I'm back. I didn't get eaten by a bear. I know I was joking about that on LinkedIn. There and maybe we can ask Hitesh if he's been attacked by any armadillos lately, and we can get into that. But I was in Whistler for a week. It was great. I recharged a bit, turned off notifications on my phone for email. So if I didn't get back to you yet in the past couple of days here, I have a lot of emails to go through. But first time I've done that in 15 years, turned off email notifications on my phone. So it was quite nice being somewhat unplugged for a little bit. A couple things here reminding everyone. Oh, so I've got some new stickers here. So same kind of thing. If you want to ping me, I will send you one of the new set of stickers if you would like. I'm going to come up with a better way of getting addresses and stuff for folks instead of having to just ping me. But yeah, you can do so. I will send you some stickers if you like. You just shoot me subject line subscriber, throw me a mailing address, and I'll throw those in the mail. North America only. Couple other things. If you are watching this via LinkedIn right now and you don't know about my YouTube channel yet, this is also broadcast onto YouTube. So youtube.com/DarylAndBoo. If you go over to that, you can hit the subscribe button. So if you are watching from YouTube right now, you can hit subscribe. It should be a button down here if you have not hit that already. That way you'll get to see when I actually go live, as opposed to happening to have all the things open and having to remind yourself and whatnot. You get that notification. There's a bell to hit as well to turn on notifications. There's also a newsletter, DarylAndBoo.com. If you go there, throw in a name and email address, and you will get a weekly technical newsletter for really exciting F5 stuff, as well as industry stuff, local stuff, just trying to provide information to folks in a consolidated way. A couple other things on that same website, DarylAndBoo.com. There's an event calendar. So there's a tab that says event calendar. It's a Google Calendar that has, as guests are booked for live streams, I am putting up entries into the calendar on there. So you know when it is. You can add events to your calendar if you saw something that you might find interesting as well. There's also this available as podcast format as well. So Apple, Google, and Spotify, you'll find this on podcast. I try to be cognizant of that. I always forget that this goes out as audio only. So try to make sure that folks that are listening to this can still get the same info without having to see the stuff that's on the screen. And then otherwise, that is about it. So if you are watching via YouTube or LinkedIn, I know Hitesh has a lot of friends, so you can leave your comments, say hello, let us know where you're watching from, and then look at that, we already got some comments on there. I think we should bring on Hitesh now so that he can his fans can be.
Look at that, my fan. I feel weird. You're making me blush. I don't know if you can see me blush, but you're making me blush. This is what a full-bodied Indian man blushing looks like. There you go.
Yeah, true. Glad to have you on, Hitesh. You are one of my eldest colleagues, I would say, of at F5. I've known you since I first started at F5, and you've always done really cool things, from being a solutions engineer, and then where my career progression at F5 has been like this, and yours has been like this. It's been really cool to see all the cool things that you've been able to do at F5. So super glad to have you on. Look at this.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I would say, actually, my career progression has been like that, and was for a long time. I actually enjoy and sometimes miss my times as an SE, just carrying a bag, traveling the country or the world or the Midwest for a very long time. I got real familiar with St. Louis and Chicago. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on, and hopefully you brought up the armadillo reference, which I don't think we're gonna have time to cover the armadillo story, but I will put a challenge out there. Anyone that does a demo of Beacon with my team, I will add the armadillo story to the end of that demo for free. How about that?
Oh wow, that'd be awesome. All right, that alone should entice folks. It is a good story. It took a lot to get it out of Hitesh when I first heard it. I think we were sitting at a Whataburger at 2 a.m. in Texas, and maybe there was multiple instances of that. I don't know, but it's a good story, so it's worth listening to. We got somebody calling you out on your guitars as well. I know I brought that up earlier, but you're a fellow musician like myself here. Folks who are avid listeners know that I can play about 3 chords at this point, but I'm sure you can play a lot more.
A couple. I'm really maybe working on the melange of real guitar playing and air guitar playing. So it's air guitar playing with the real guitar. How about that?
Nice. Cool. So one thing I know, like, we'll get into the stuff that you have currently been working on and more recently been working on at F5, but something that's really cool that you did at F5, well, there's a number of things. Like, we can get into, what has become AS3 at this point, which really changed the face of F5. But one of the things that our users, so for the most part, a lot of the folks who would be listening would be folks that would interact with my local territory in Vancouver. So the Vancouver user group ran some training called the Super-NetOps training 3 times. And everybody loved it. They learned a lot of stuff. Network engineers were getting to touch and feel APIs for the first time. And that course, that training program was developed by you primarily. There's a couple other folks involved, I understand, but that was your baby for a long time.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, right, it was a team effort, and I certainly had my part to play there, and plenty of others have contributed. In fact, one of the core tenets of the Super-NetOps thing, whatever you want to call that nowadays, training, movement, community, whatever. I think it's a little bit of all of those things. Was that we wanted it to really be an open source project, and we kind of came at it from, we weren't necessarily creating software like you would normally in an open source project. We were creating open source training, open source content, and I think all of that content actually still lives out on GitHub. Any of our customers, any of your users, any of the people in the training can go there and actually contribute to help us fix bugs. We call them bugs. Those are grammar errors or issues in the lab guide or whatever, right? That was part of the whole concept of Super-NetOps, was not just teaching automation. Sure, you could definitely get that out of it. That's a given. But you also learned all of the important DevOps practices that came along with actually being able to use that automation skill set in a modern environment. So I remember a number of classes when we started. We started actually Super-NetOps as a training program for the boos of the world, for our SEs, right? We had a lot of SEs that were network professionals, but they needed to bolt on that capability for automation and APIs and things like that. And I remember the day where we switched from a Word document over to a fully automated Python Sphinx tool chain that was run by Travis CI. It was all hosted in GitHub. It auto-generated everything and put it up onto this a dynamic site that we have called Cloud Docs, which actually generates docs from code. I say these things now, and some of the things that I just said probably sound totally normal to the folks listening out there. When we were doing these things, though, they were new, not only for us at F5, but they were new for F5. Cloud Docs wasn't a thing. The reason it became a thing was because of our commitment to a better user experience in the aspects of our documentation and our training material and things like that. So, there's a lot of goodness to it, and that goodness continues. It's interesting because I think I've now passed the torch to a whole other group of people that are kind of carrying and feeding for Super-NetOps. And I think that's the best part about it, is not necessarily people could look at that and say, well, you're not as involved anymore. And I look at it and like, the program has grown, the training has grown beyond really what I could do with it. Right. We've got so many other people that are contributing, updating, adding new things, adding new ideas and new content to that it's actually better that other folks are able to contribute to it than just me or the core folks that kind of started it. So it's a great success story, and I really hope people have been able to use it. I hope people are adding a new, I call it a bunch of new tools in your toolbox, right? And on a personal note, right, one of the reasons I was originally born in England, it doesn't sound like it, but I lived there for a long time and then immigrated to the US. I lost my accent when I moved over here in my early teens. But one of the reasons my family had to move was because workplace training and the ability for folks that had expertise in one area, but needed to then go transform that expertise or apply that expertise differently, which is how I see automation in the network space. It's all the same stuff, but you just apply that knowledge differently. That was something my dad did not have that opportunity. He was an engineer in the UK. And at that time, right, it was like, well, here's a stack of books. You got a couple of weeks to take the test. If you don't pass it, you're going to be put on a list that you don't want to be on, right? So that kind of came into this, is giving people that capability and that very human thing of expanding their skill set and building a new portion of their careers.
Oh, I totally agree with you. There's I'm getting a bit of echo. I don't know what that's from. The idea of learning how it is today, and I think it's being opened up a lot, and people are reimagining things because of COVID and being on lockdown. But seeking out learning the way that you want to do it at this point has been. I think it's going to change the face of education for a long time. I did bring up that lab for folks that want to check it out. If you haven't seen it already, if you haven't been through it, if you go to the GitHub page for Dev Central and look up automation labs, it's on there. Now, at the same time, we have been refactoring some of the training as well into the F5 Agility labs, which have a lot of automation pieces to it as well. And then some additional, more applicable use cases beyond just the base information. But one of the more recent ones was around ASM and the API that's integrated into ASM. So you can truly get into DevSecOps now. So all of this has been really, really critical into the way F5 is today. Like I can't imagine what things would be like if we didn't actually have a program like this. And if I back up for a second, just to give people an idea of what this program is basically, it's called Super-NetOps because you can take a network engineer who's primarily, if they weren't doing any automation before, their form of automation was having maybe a text file with what you want your changes to be on your Cisco switch, and then you paste that in, and then it does your changes for you. And moving people from basic network scripting, or maybe even none of that, into actually working with Postman, actually building out a set of API calls so that you can bring up a big IP, make changes on the big IP, and then orchestrating that into a CI/CD pipeline. Anything else I'm missing there? Oh yeah, create, modify, assign ASM policy. Yeah, very cool. And if we just continue on with that for a little bit here, you also created something called the App Services IAP.
Yes.
As well, and that really changed and transformed F5 as well. I know we want to talk about Beacon. We'll get to that in a sec, but maybe we can talk a little bit about where the original App Services IAP came from and what that's turned into today at F5.
Yeah, sure. So, the app, we have this a framework on big IPs. It's called IAPs, and they're essentially Tickle-based config wizards. Let me put it that way, right? Though that was the tool that we had to work with, and I was actually at a customer engagement. It was a competitive situation, And we were in a situation where we weren't showing. I knew exactly what the customer wanted. I knew how they wanted to do it, but we weren't quite able to get there. And one of the things I've always appreciated about the Big IP platform is it is very extensible underneath it. And so IApps was a tool that we had on the platform as a framework that existed that allowed me to basically go and write a poor man's declarative interface, or poor person's declarative interface, I should say, on Big IP. And it was funny because when we did that IApp, there were a number of folks that looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's not how you're supposed to use IApps." And I was like, "Yeah, but it works fine. It does it. It works. What's the problem?" No, that's not how. And it was an interesting. I've learned this lesson through my career is, looking at things differently. It's always interesting how users will take something that you create, or in my case, I was a consumer of something, and then change it to something that you never imagined, right? It's tickle. I'll be honest about it, right? It's not the most hip language. I think it garners some sub percentage of usage on all the lists, but it was actually very powerful. And once you get over the hurdle of, hey, it may be an older language, but languages are languages. I've learned any number of programming languages in my career and kind of since I was a kid, really. And they've always brought something different to the party. It's really just getting over the initial hurdle, and then you can use it to solve your problem. The App Services IApp, what it did is it cemented and did a lot of the early work about how we actually go and do an intent-based or declarative interface for layer 4 through 7 services. There was plenty of experimentation going on at that time around declarative. In fact, at that time, you had like Kubernetes was kind of going. It was still very early, but you could see the patterns there. You also had like things like Cisco ACI. Nuage was still not part of VMware back then, and they were all kind of going down this intent-based path. And we used IApps to kind of bootstrap and say, how would we do this in a declarative manner if we could? It was a really interesting project. I learned a lot through it. And then we got up to the limit of what we could do there, and being able to support that and making sure we were able to support our customers in production motivated us to say, right, let's go and do this the real way that we wanted to. And that is now something called the App Services 3 extension, or AS3. And people often ask me, like, why is it called AS3? This is the last vestige of the original IApp. There was an App Services version 1 IApp. Then was an App Services version 2. And App Services 3 is actually the third iteration of that idea. So what you're using nowadays is actually not I wouldn't say our third try, but our third evolution of those initial ideas around declarative. And I think AS3 is really just it's solving problems for customers, right? We really got a chance to do it right with AS3, and it was awesome, and continues to be awesome to provide those solutions for our customers, and frankly see how they use it. And I think that's the thing that I get more out of. Rather than talking about AS3, we could definitely go into that. But I also am like, how do you want to use that? Because I want people to do the same thing we did with the IApp in the early day, which is take something that was meant to be used one way, but then you see how customers and users can get creative and just create something totally new and interesting out of it. And I think that's what AS3 really unlocks.
That's awesome. I mean, constantly that's the story with F5 too. Like I run into customers who are running some crazy I rule that I just never imagined using the Big IP in that way, and they've come up with a way to do it because they had somebody who had an idea and they had the tools to do it. And F5 has always been good about providing the tools and just letting people freely play around most of the F5, not all of it, but most of the F5 is customizable.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So you went on from that, and then you moved into a product management role. And was there something that you did before Beacon, or was Beacon kind of the, what your first task was there?
Yeah, no. So I kind of, as all things come back around to you, karma. So I created an IApp, and that was kind of done when I was, a solution architect at that time. And then when I moved into product management, I got to actually support that IApp and support all the things. So I we continued down the path of AS3 and the automation toolchain. You can find out about that, on f5.com, or you can check out the GitHub repos. We'll post a link for that. We grew that tool set and our ecosystem integrations and kind of pivoted the entire strategy around automation for big IP, and in a lot of ways for F5, into that declarative nature, into an ecosystem type environment where you can freely use these components. They're composable, and you can kind of mix and match them how you want to get to your end goal, right? So did that for a while, and then kind of the opportunity to work on Beacon came along, and so I raised my hand for that, and I said, I think that's a new challenge. It's actually an evolution of what I had been doing, and really going to into Beacon. What the premise there was that we always had this premise, and you'll learn about it actually in some of the original Super-NetOps training. We talk about this is, DevOps is really predicated on a systems level view, understanding not just your component, but how your component relates to the others. And Beacon was a chance for me and the team that's working on Beacon for us to provide that. With automation orchestration, it's like you're providing the piece. With Beacon, what we're doing is actually giving visibility, monitoring, and the ability to gain insights from all those things that are running at that systems level view that we talked about, years ago, right? So it's taken a while to get there. But I think it's a virtuous cycle where automation created more app deployments, created more things that people were running in more places, which then created more operational challenges. And that's really starting, that's kind of the core tenet of what Beacon is there for, is to help solve your visibility, your analytics, and orchestration challenges in a multi-cloud world, right? So it's been an interesting evolution, but I think it's all interrelated and all kind of plays well together, which is one of the nice things about it.
Very cool. And natively, F5 Beacon is an F5 cloud service. So we've had on folks before speaking about F5 cloud services. We've had Rick Salsa on. We've had Jill Duran on talking about Essential App Protect. Rick talking about the DNS pieces of F5 cloud services. So for customers, they don't need to have any hardware on-prem. They don't even need to have any sort of big IP on-prem or anything like that. This is totally outside of their data center, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Beacon's a software as a service offering. It runs 100% in the cloud, and you're gonna link your on-prem instances, whether those are hardware or software, and that's across F5's product portfolio. So since the days of when we started Super-NetOps, F5 itself has grown a lot. We've we welcomed our folks from our NGINX into the family. We had the Shape acquisition earlier this year. What we're trying to do with Beacon is essentially give a unified place for all of that awesome data to land. And then more importantly, be able to analyze and get insights on that data, on how your applications are running, what the security posture of your applications are. And then, looking towards the future, right? I have a gleam in my eye of saying, right, our CEO talked about adaptive applications on our last analyst call. And Beacon really is a big part of that, is saying that the end goal for us is actually to say, we want all this data, we want the insights, but it's to feed the ability for us to actually improve the operations of applications, to free up time for our customers and our users to go and solve new problems. I think one of the things, and I'll give an example of this, one of the things that I love, and it happens every now and then, is I get to put away the PowerPoint, put away the Excel spreadsheets, which have become a part of my job and what I have to do, and that's fine. But I get to put those away and go solve a problem, and just write some code or go do something unique, right? And that's what we want to give back to our users at kind of the end vision for Beacon, is making it so that most of your operations are just happening. They're happening in an automated manner, informed by machine learning, informed by AI, done the right way, so that you can actually get time back to go and do the stuff that the computers, AI, and ML can't do. And it's interesting. I had a conversation the other day with someone. It's like nobody comes at AI and ML conversations from the limits of what we can do and what we can't do, right? It's always about what could AI and ML do, and that's fine. There's plenty of stuff there, but I always look at that and say, right, but what if I could just get AI and ML and leverage that awesome technology to just give people time back, right? Give them time back to then go apply their beautiful creative mind to go create an iApp or go create Super-NetOps or go create this, this series of Boo's Hour and all of these great things that you're doing. Those are things that AI and ML cannot solve today. And that's what I'd like to do with Beacon is take over and understand operations and be able to automate those to a point where you can get back that time to go do creative things. Go ahead.
I mean, that's so critical to, and we have this a digital transformation discussion with customers all the time. And one of the key tenets of it is ROI on your time. So if you can get that back, if you can get that, whatever process it is that you need to turn into a digital process or bring up that app, and then it's set it and forget it because something else can take care of it, or at least for the most part, and you can just go visit it every once in a while and move on to that next thing that's going to give that business that ROI. And I think right now people are trying to move and iterate their digital transformation so much faster. So that certainly sounds like it would help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that we've got to do to get there, and it's what I just explained is it's going to take work time to get there, but it's something that we're working and moving towards as fast as we possibly can. Right, that's the end goal for me, is to say, right, let's take infrastructure operations and let's apply all the things that we've been talking about. We talked about Super-NetOps, we talked about declarative. Layering on visibility analytics, layering on all the data that you can get from F5's kind of portfolio of products, right? We're not just the big IP company anymore. And with NGINX, we're sitting, closer to your workloads, closer to your computer environment. With Shape, we're sitting at the endpoint in the web browser on a mobile phone. The value of all of that together, we kind of talk about this often, is like you want a 1 + 1 = 3. And for engineers, what I just said drives me nuts when I hear that. But that's the concept: is the sum of those things is more than the parts, right? If we can put that together, present it up thoughtfully, present it up so that we're not just creating more of a data nightmare for our customers, and then apply that to operations. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could not only happen in operations, but also giving some time back. Go do some cool, maybe go learn guitar. We're all in COVID time, so I'm sure there's plenty of people with guitars behind their chairs that they'd love to go to learn, and maybe we can give some time back to go do those things.
Oh, totally. Maybe I'll put you on the spot. We got just a little bit of time left. Last question. First of all, how would somebody get started with this? And second of all, what would be an initial way to just easily test something like this and show some value?
Yeah, so f5.com/beacon, and you can, it'll land you on the website. At the top of that, there's a button, there's a free 45-day trial. Within that trial, there's a getting started guide. So the getting started guide actually walks you through and says, here, let's go create an application in Beacon. Let's go hook your big IP up to that, get some data coming in. Link some end user experience monitors to that. And it's a very simple example, but it shows you what you can do if you can take the data that you have just sitting on your big IP or NGINX instances, and then start marrying that together with the data that we can get from a customer or user perspective from Beacon, right? So one of the things that I hear from customers a lot is, like, when we hear about an issue, we never know actually what happened. We just know that users had an issue and we're pointing the finger at various elements of the infrastructure. What we want to do is democratize that data. I think that data is useful to all the smart, capable individuals if they can get it. And so one of the key things that we do in that getting started guide is say, look, let's monitor your application externally, and then link that data together with what we're getting off your big IP. And let's start showing you, hey, if you had a spike in, let's say, your backend server processing time, and then you saw that same information from your big IP, that can be correlated, and then you can use that to start figuring out what's going on. Let's say if you had an operational issue. So Really easy to get going. 45-day trial. Create as many apps, as many insights as you want. We're not going to charge you anything for it. Don't even need a credit card. Just go sign up and give it a try. And then, just on that front, the last thing I want to give a shameless plug. We're actually I mentioned earlier, like getting back and writing code. Last week, I got to do that again. So that's why I have this huge smile on my face. So we're working right now on an open source extension for BigIP that allows you to basically go through it in 3 steps, discover your virtual servers, put those into an application construct, and then actually auto create all of that in Beacon and configure your BigIP to start streaming data up. So the getting started guide right now is a document, and very soon is going to be an actual extension that you just run on BigIP and it does it for you. So look for that. We'll just watch my LinkedIn as soon as we get that out and a place where people can look at it. Right now, it's a little bit messy. I'm not super proud of some of the code that I've written, so I'm going to go clean it up. But just look for that, and we'll make that even easier as we go here.
Awesome. Well, maybe in future, then we can have you back on, or whoever needs to come back on, and we can run through what that would look like. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, sure thing.
Awesome. All right. So free trial, 45 days, f5beacon.com, scrolling along the bottom here. So if anybody wants to sign up for that, please do and check it out. A couple last comments here. Sebastian, neat perspective on Beacon. Currently interested, but if I can do some AI works based on metric on app performance action, that sounds cool. What do you think of that, Hitesh?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going, right? Beacon's a new product, and we're I say full agile, right? Like we add things. In fact, we've got a release. We just reviewed new features that are going to release. We reviewed that right before this call. I actually left that call a little early to join to join this. Those features are coming out and being released to customers at the end of this week. So we are constantly adding. What I would say is go check it out. Go look at what's there. And then have a conversation with us, because it's a product that we're developing very rapidly, and you'll start to see we've been releasing features almost on a weekly basis. We're going to continue to do that, but I think we're really getting to like this magic set of things that are really useful. And so check it out, and then we love to hear feedback. So you can reach out to me or even Boo. You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, on Twitter, whatever mechanism you want to use. To give us that feedback, and we'll do our best to get it into the product.
Awesome. Thanks, Hitesh. Again, fan favorite. So if anybody is watching this, connect with Hitesh on all the things, and he's a great guy to chat with. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. I will roll the outro here. Hit subscribe if you have not already. Join the newsletter if you're not already signed up for that. And I will be back next week with more live streams. Thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for checking this out today. If you're watching via YouTube right now, go ahead and click subscribe down below. Also click the bell for notifications. That way you will find out when we are dropping a new video or when we're going live. Also, there's darylamboo.com. If you head over to that, leave your name and email address, we will drop a weekly technical newsletter in your inbox every Monday. Also, this is available via podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. Head over to one of those, hit subscribe, and you'll be able to listen to us in the car on your commute or during a walk or a run. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.